So I thought we could have some fun today and play with stretch cams. So if you look in the instructions, it tells you how to use the stretch cams, but it's not always the most interesting or useful approaches. So I'm going to start with the first one in this case. So it's the type which looks like, actually if I put that there, that'll probably show up quite well. So like, there. In this case, for this machine, it's the number 16. So what I found out about this is it has the 6 reverse points on it, which means it's a standard forward and backwards reinforced stitch. It's not a very big back and forth, which means you're a bit limited. However, if I set this to, well, we'll start it first in maximum zigzag or maximum stitch length with the plus in the maximum. So if you've got a modifier on your machine, put it to the plus. When you start your stitches, it's going to do what it says on the tin. Zoom in on this a bit more. Move that up. Okay. There we are. So in that, it gives a very nice sort of cross-stitch looking pattern. However, if we reduce the stitch length to sort of 2 1/4, that's the forward movement. Not quite there yet, so we'll reduce it to 1 1/2. Now we're starting to change the look of the stitch. So I'll show you that now. So what you can see is I started in the longest, let's make sure this isn't longest stitch length here. Focus in camera. And then I reduce the stitch length and it's a bit tighter. However, if you really want to reinforce it to make it much more interesting, what we need to do is adjust the minus, the modifier up here. So I'm going to put this into the middle position. Thread caught underneath. And what you can see in the middle, oops. A bit. There we are. Vibration. In that position, I'll show you this in a second. Okay. Now what you can see is it's really tight and really smart looking, and it's doubly reinforced. So that gives a much, come on, focus in. So okay, so I might maybe do it there. Come on, focus in. There we go. So you can see it gives a very nice reinforced look. Now let's go one more. And we will put it to the minus. All the way to the tightest. So this means maximum reverse stitch. So the modifier in the back says how far back we go, whereas the stitch length shows you how far forward we go. Okay, that'll do for now. So we'll bring the needle up, snip, and there is the look, not much different, but slightly different in the middle for that. So that gives a very smart look. However, other patterns are much more impacted. And I'm going to do one more on here, which is to set the stitch width to 0, put the modifier back to maximum, and we'll increase the stitch length to maximum, which doesn't make much of a difference on this pattern. However, this then gives, and you can do left, medium, and right on this gives your reinforced straight stitch. So if you need to do your straight stitch reinforced, that's as long as I have been able to get it. That's just the design of the machine. And there's some mechanical reasons inside on this particular machine. So let's put that there. You can see it's reinforced. But it's not the straightest, most goriest stitch. However, it's for knit, so it doesn't really matter that much. Okay, let's go on to the next pattern. Okay. So the next pattern to do will be similar in nature. In this case, it's, let's see if that works. Yes, that works. So number 17. Okay, and that is sort of a, you can see it goes in crosses of a sort. Don't know what the actual name of this is. I should do by now. Let's put this on. Where's the thing? Okay, there it is. Okay, so this one is a little different. Put that there so it won't fall off with vibrations. So we'll go back to our default settings, maximum stitch width, maximum stitch length, and the plus. And we'll show you what you get out of this. Okay, so in this case you get a very long looking thing like that. However, I found with this pattern you can have a bit more fun. If we now reduce the stitch length in the front, let's go to 2, see what happens. Very little difference. Let's go down to 1.5. Again, no real difference. So you can understand why that modifier is so important. Now if I move the modifier into the middle position, okay, you see that tightens up the stitches. If I move it all the way down, then we start to get something a little more interesting. I reduce this stitch length again. Okay, let me show you what you get out of that. So you can continue reducing it down, but eventually the stitch length does start to impact. So you can see here, you can get a perfect cross stitch. But if you really reduce it down, you get this amazing, oops, better put it in the camera angle. You get this amazing look here, which is rather lovely. So you could use this really decoratively. It is a reinforced stitch, but you could use that really decoratively. It's quite an amazing look. So I really like that one for that. Okay, on to the next. So you have to play around a bit with both stitch length and the modifier. Let's go back up to the default settings, maximum stitch length, maximum width. Okay. Now let's go to, what's the next one in the list? The bow. Oh, actually we can do number 15 as fun. So number 15 is this one, which is, I'm not sure, it's sort of a flowery thing, but it's kind of nifty looking. tulip, maybe it's called. Okay, so by default settings, off we go. So when it's set really loose on maximum stitch, let's see, make sure we can get that in. Oops. Pull it out. You get that sort of wiggly wobbly look, which is, you know, decoratively interesting. If I now reduce the stitch length down to see where it's impacted. Not there yet, so let's try 1.5. 1. Okay, it's not really impacted until you get to a stitch length of 1. Okay, and then it just looks, oops, make sure it focuses in, there we are. So it's not really impacted until you get to a stitch length of 1. But that's an interesting sort of look. You could use that, put ribbon underneath or different stuff. However, it's a little more interesting once we start playing around with the modifier. Let's put the modifier in the middle. And we'll increase the stitch length back up to 2. And then we'll go the stitch modifier all the way to the minimum. And let's take a look at this. So when you really tighten it up, you get this amazing tulip look. So there are a lot of variations with this. Now if you reduce, let's see how. So when I really played with this before, you can see by tightening up and playing with the stitches, you can get that amazing look with this particular one just by tightening it up. So you have to play around a bit to get it really clear and detailed. In this case, it's not quite as detailed as I'd like, but that's okay. You get the idea. You should play around, it's fun. That's what you can do with this. Okay, on to the next, back to the default. Maximum stitch length, maximum width, plus modifier. Okay, so we've got the bows now. So this is the bows. They're fun. Okay. And off we go with the bows. So in the default position, you can see the bows are quite far apart. So we don't necessarily want them that far apart. So let's go to medium modifier. What that does is it reduces the width of the bows. Okay, so you can see now the bows are narrower. Let's see if we can get this, I'll pull this out. So the original bows were quite wide. Then what happens is with the modifier they get a little smaller. Okay, and if I go to the minus all the way to the bottom of the modifier, then the bows are very narrow. They're cute little bows this time, which is a nice look. So you get different size bows available. You can see they're small now. Okay. However, you'll notice they're still quite far apart. So this is where the stitch length will come in, because we just have to find out where those bows are impacted by the stitch length. So I've set it to 1.5. And they're closer together for sure, so let's go to 1. Now the bows are literally touching each other. So I'll show you that look. Okay, so you can see now the bows overlap and you get this really kind of nifty looking look. So that's probably a bit too far for most people because you can't tell they're bows. However, it's a new decorative look. So you can go everything from this size of bow, then you reduce the modifier once and you get that size, then you reduce the modifier to maximum, and then you can adjust your stitch length down to there. Okay, let's go to the next pattern, which is a bit of fun. Put everything back to the maximums. Which other one did I find particularly fun? Ah, yes. So you could play with the sailboats. The flowers work very well when you tighten them up. Ah, yes, so pattern number 13. This one works really nicely as well. So let's play with this one. So on the default settings, you see that's a lot tighter now. I'll go one more. And let's, oops, foot's coming loose here. Too little.
Well, since you didn't yesterday, do you fancy going in the
Sure. Anyway, that gives you an idea of some of the varieties you can come up with. Lots of good ones. And I'm going to show you one last bit of fun. So, I've been working on my 3D printer to try and get this, and it's pretty good. I'll show you what it does. just ran out of bobbin thread. But anyway, this reinforced zigzag does not exist by default on this machine. It's not perfectly even, but it will work. And on zigzag, you never notice it. So when it's not at the maximum stitch length, it works pretty well. But I've run out of bobbin thread, so end of video. But you get the idea. I can do that now, which is great because I couldn't do that before. Anyway, bye for now.